Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Story Behind the Agent podcast. I'm your host, Brett Chambers, and it's my co-host, Brian Miltenberger, with the Chambers-Miltenberger team here at C&amp Mortgage.
And just a little bit about the podcast. After Brett and I have been on many coffee meetings with realtors, we realized everybody has their own story behind how they got in business and kind of how they became so successful. So we kind of wanted to give them their own platform to come on here and tell their story. So.
Perfect. All right. This week's going to be awesome. So let's get to it. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Story Behind the Agent podcast. And today with us, we have Peter Petras with One South Realty. Right. So welcome, Peter.
Thanks for having me.
No, I'm glad we got you in here. So we're excited. He is just all secrets out. He's my brother-in-law. So I was a little hesitant to bring him in here, but I had to. So just kidding, Peter. But just tell us how you got into business. I know you had a lot of background history with new builds. And just explain what happened.
Yeah, try to make it a brief history, but I started off working as a project manager back after I graduated from Virginia Tech. So did that for about 3 years with a national builder, moved back from Northern Virginia, a little closer to home in Richmond, to do the same thing for a regional builder. And whether you remember this part of the story or not, you actually connected me with my manager at the time, Justin.
I do now that you said that.
Yeah, so that's how I got back to Richmond. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And worked same thing for a couple of years. Thought that I wanted to try to move up into management. So I moved into sales just as a natural progression to have a little bit of experience, both in the field building and, in a model home selling. Very quickly, I got the sales bug, and I really liked it, but felt like I could do a lot more, not just selling for one builder in one location at the time, building a lot of rapport with someone and helping them through whatever kind of obstacles of figuring out, their financing with them and connecting them with the right lender and talking through floor plans and all of that. If the neighborhood wasn't a fit, it was kind of like, all right, well, it was great working with you, meeting you, but I can't convince you that this is the right place for you if it's not. Just saying good luck.
Neither do you want to. I know you neither would you want to.
Right. So, but it was like, sorry, I can't help you any further outside of here. So, there was a little bit of a disconnect there, and it was a perfect storm of a lot of things. But probably the biggest one was finding out that my wife Blair was pregnant. That got my mind spinning at 1,000,000 miles per hour about what I wanted the future to look like. So made the jump out on my own when I kind of had gotten a little slower, with sales. So it kind of felt like a natural transition time. A couple of days later, the world shut down for COVID. So felt like maybe I'd made the worst decision of my life. But no, it turned out to be a great decision. Once real estate took off, it gave me a good opportunity to just dig in, work really hard, and come out on the other side. So, that's a little bit about my background and how I got into the business.
I remember when you made that leap, it was pretty quick when you end up making it. That you happen pretty quickly. So, is that something? I mean, obviously you don't regret, but would you recommend if you're thinking about it and you truly think just to pull the Band-Aid off?
I think so. I think I'd probably toss the idea around for months before I really got serious of just, thinking, well, that could be an avenue to take. And for me, it came down to more, I really, really liked everyone at the company I was working for. And I didn't feel like it was right to be half invested in something, considering making a transition. That was part of it, but I think what it comes down to is you can overthink things for a long, long time. And like you said, ripping the Band-Aid off, I felt like while it was incredibly scary, sometimes that fear is a sign of growth to come. So it felt like the right thing to do. And it depends on the person's situation, but I'd say it could be the right move
to do it. If they're thinking about it, it might as well you can't contemplate on it forever.
That's right.
So, or eat at you.
Yep.
I remember you and your wife working pregnant, and you just made the leap. She was, I don't know what it was like, but I'm sure she was a little nervous.
I think it was nerve-wracking for all of us.
Frustrated and all the above. But
Yeah, I don't think we had many conversations around it other than me saying, "Well, what do you think if I quit?" And I think outside of that, I just kind of made the decision. And could I have handled that a little bit better? Sure, probably a little better communication, but I don't know if this is a relationship counseling podcast, so we'll probably keep that for another day.
Yeah, but it all worked out in the end.
That's
so
right.
Is she's now actually helping you a little bit?
She's been doing a little bit, usually one day a week. She's been helping out with some, I guess what I would call like marketing activity, but also, just some creative, just brainstorming that I usually will just table and keep pushing off to another week to deal with more immediate things. So she's got a little bit more of a creative mind, I think, than I do anyway. So it's been good to have some help there and, keep me focused on the day to day when I know I'm good at what I'm good at, and I like to outsource what I'm not good at. So it's been very beneficial that she's got a little bit different thought process than I do.
Yeah. So let's go back when you were making that leap. What was it like? I know you were interviewing for different brokerages and all that. What was that like?
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because you interview for a job and for any typical W-2 job, and the pressure is on you. Where it felt, at least the first time, like the pressure was going to be on me, and then you start talking and you realize that the pressure's not necessarily on you.
It's kind of selling to me.
It's kind of on the brokerage, right? Of like selling you on what they have to offer that differentiates them, makes them stand out. So that part of it kind of caught me off guard initially. I've been a pretty thorough preparer. I don't even know if that's a word, but I was very thorough in my prep for interviews in the past, and so to kind of prepare for the first one and then see that it was a lot more of being told how things operate within that office was just a big transition. So everyone has their different take, and I think there was just a lot of good things that with where I landed at One South, but part of it is just feel. You meet with different people, and you can kind of get a sense for who you might mesh with personality wise. And being an independent contractor, it doesn't mean you're going to interact with them every day, but it still matters when you're looking at a company culture. And
company culture is everything, especially if going into it and you need that. I mean, you need help, even though you knew how to write a contract, you knew all that, you still have lots of questions.
Yeah. And gosh, you think, being in sales for a builder, you think what you're doing going out into the real world on your own, and it is so completely different. So that was a huge wake-up call, I think, for me. Something that I just hadn't thought through or really understood before I was out on my own, and you are really doing everything for yourself as your own business. So that was a huge transition.
Well, like you said before, you prepared yourself. You're very good at preparing and being ready to take on the challenge before you do things.
Sure. Yeah. It just can be hard to prepare for the unknown.
When you don't know.
That's right.
And then you have the pandemic on top of that.
Yeah. So throw that in the mix. We were also moving at the time, renovating our house. So there's a lot. But I think all of those things are easy to look back on now and say, man, there's so many things that could have gotten in the way or been a reason to say, I can't do this right now. But I think all of it in a way propelled me to work really hard at the beginning and get me to where I am. So,
yeah. Sometimes that's the harder it gets, the more you rise to the challenge. So,
yeah. I said to my wife pretty early on, going to sink or swim and do whatever it takes to swim. But that was definitely part of the conversation early on.
I used to have that on my desk when I first got in.
Did you really?
Basically, yeah. It was a quote about that, and you either don't make it or not in this business. And obviously you've made it. You've been very successful. And so when making that leap, you went to One South. What drove you to One South at the time?
Yeah. I think a lot of it for me, I am very data driven, and it's easy to do the well, it's not always easy, but everyone's doing the marketing stuff, right? Hey, I sold this house. Hey, I'm a real estate agent. I think it gets tired to people who are not in the business to see that over and over again, but it's a necessary evil. For me, it was like, where can I add value? What can I do to add value to other people's, real estate needs? I'm not going to go out and be the person that's calling you, knocking on your door, asking you for business. I'd rather prove to you why I deserve your business. And so seeing what One South had in terms of, kind of what they did on a data side, what they collected, what they paid attention to, how they kind of pushed it out to the office to help us understand more of the driving forces in the market. It was a huge pull for me. And Rick Jarvis, the owner, was, we met for the first time and pretty quickly clicked just off of common interest in books, podcasting, golf. So it was a no-brainer once we'd sat down and met, and that was, a few meetings in. So I'd kind of gotten a sense for what some other places were doing. It made the decision pretty easy.
It's a great company from what I didn't know really anything about them before you joined them. It is a good company, but it's interesting. You said different things like you don't really, you do marketing, you do that kind of stuff. You do your Instagrams and things like that. And I know you try to do more and more of it, but you do take care of your clients, and you're already getting referrals on top of referrals from clients by just taking care of them.
Yeah.
Which is, you literally you add value from just your background, I think. And just who you are, you literally walk them through step by step. So,
and I think that's the piece that was missing. Being in new home sales was there was no real way to help somebody through the entire process unless it was in that neighborhood with that builder. And I just hated that I was developing these connections, and especially with the first time home buyer, you're helping them figure out how to navigate the process. Maybe they need 6 months to save some money or work on their credit score because they didn't realize that they hadn't paid some tiny bill that got lost in the mail, and it was
medical
impacting.
Bill,
it was impacting their score, and they didn't even know it until they sat down and talked with a lender and figured that out. So, you work with some people and then you can't help them see it across the finish line. It just isn't, it wasn't that I was worried about the money as much as you develop a relationship with somebody and then you're just handing them off to someone else that can, an agent that could help them elsewhere at the time, or, they were just kind of going at it themselves somewhere else. So I think, for me, I just I like helping people. It's a cool feeling. It's such a big decision. And it's just so cool to see it through to the end. And you said it's mostly referral based. I tried the Zillow thing. I tried all of these, paid lead services, and it just you don't get the same level of connection as you do with, people who you're connected to through your own sphere. And so I think there's just a different level of trust that can be built very quickly when somebody says, hey, I've worked with Peter before, I've worked with Brett and Brian before, and it was a great experience. It just starts you off on a great note to help somebody. And I think that's been the value, is just focusing on my own sphere and staying connected with them to, hope that it continues to develop.
And just knowing you, you do that really well, and your own sphere has trusted you. They've been, I feel like a lot of your friends have used you, just trusting you.
Yeah.
And through that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's, again, I'm just not the person that wants to be the sales guy. And so, that can be a fine line of somebody that you're friends with that, you want to make sure that, you still do what you need to stay in front of them. So when they decide they're looking at real estate, but
You have to at some point.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. And so it'd be bad sales not to, but at the end of the day, I just hope that I provide that value through, information and just being a good friend in general, being a good friend, person, however I can, just naturally be involved in their life is the way I go about generating business, I think. And it's not from a sales tactic as much as just trying to, maintain great relationships with people that have known for a long time.
Yeah, you do it very well. Just from knowing you before you even got in the industry. So now One South, you did get with One South. You started, I guess you work with a builder now. And so you get to use some of your background with that as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I do sell for River City Custom Homes. So it's been great to keep that knowledge fresh and top of mind. And I think it was an easy transition. The credit doesn't go to me for River City choosing to have One South represent them, but it's been great to be a part of that and still help, custom homes. So it's not necessarily a first time buyer. Sometimes it is. So you can have, the same conversations around just helping people through the process. And I think, what my background has really been helpful with is understanding the nuances of, picking out different kind of structural elements to put into the home, talking through floor plan design, and then really even just like the expectations around timing. It takes a long time to build a house, and it's gotten a lot harder in this COVID and post-COVID.
Especially the houses that they're building.
Right, exactly. And development, depending on where they're building, that can be a really big challenge of, so utilities aren't in. I've dealt with that before in the past as a project manager, and, setting the right expectation of, look, we do not control a utility company, and we're telling you that we can build your home by this date, but that's assuming that they show up and put that gas line in the ground or whatever it is. So there's a lot of moving pieces. And I think having the background of having done it for a long time just helps set people up for success, so they're not upset with the builder or myself or the project manager that works at River City. It helps set everybody up for a successful process.
It sets you apart too.
Than
other people. Not saying other people don't do it, but there's definitely who always walks and does that.
No, absolutely. And then that's a big focus of ours, is trying to figure out how can we do more to reach out to agents in the industry and explain how new construction works, because to someone who's never sold a new construction home before, it can be kind of intimidating, right? Like, the paycheck is a long way off. Sure, that's one component of it, but it's also like floor plan design. Which builder do I trust? What kind of selection should I put in this home? Like, what should I be considering if I know I'm going to move in 3 to 7 years? Like, you want to think about the features you're putting in for resale capacity too. So, and who's offering, builders giving incentives right now? Who should I be using their preferred lender or not? There's so many different pieces that go into it. And
not only, don't mean to interrupt, but what I was thinking was, usually that person comes with a lender. I mean, not a lender, that person comes with a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Now you're the real estate agent. So there's 2 real estate agents that are working for one client, and how you interact and how you understand that.
Yeah. Well, it's been very valuable to, have a builder who appreciates agents in that respect, because they do bring, most of our business to us. And it's really just like your own business is through referral. It's typically through referral. If they've had someone build in the past or heard through another agent in their office that we were great to work with. So, it's great. And it offers, I think having someone on the other side, it feels good to know that I'm going to be able to assist with questions that they have, whether they have been through it 100 times or never have. But, it's just always trying to help agents understand a little bit better about new construction. I think is just, when there's no inventory, it's even more helpful than ever.
Yep. Right now, we're just talking about that. So it is a tough time to buy a home. New construction is it's definitely an easier way to go right now. So, Ryan, anything or
something we've been asking everybody here. What advice would you give for a brand new agent that's thinking about making that leap, coming from somebody that's made that leap in a really difficult time. What advice would you give for that person?
I think there's a couple things that come to mind, and obviously it depends on the situation. There's always a good fit for the right person. I think it starts with interviewing at multiple places to figure out where is the best fit for you. Is it a team? Is it somewhere that you're going to be a solo practitioner? And maybe that team that you've talked to is offering you leads, whereas the other brokerage has great systems, but they're not giving you any leads, and you're starting off, from scratch. So I think that's a great step one. And then the second one is just lean on whatever sphere you have. If it's Richmond, it's not Richmond, wherever, lean on your sphere, because those are the people that trust you and are going to be the most likely to give you business from their friends, family, themselves. But I guess on that same note, I would say don't do it from a place of desperation or just trying to be super salesy. I think it's just staying in touch with everyone and whether that's through networking groups, that are trade related or not, or volunteering. If you've been wanting to volunteer somewhere and you just haven't done it, what a great reason to just go feel better, feel good about giving back to the community. And, there's always conversations you're going to have with people around, that time you spend together at whatever place it is, the gym, anything. So I think it's just
through texts and tweets and stuff with your friends, right?
Yeah. I read a magazine article pretty early on in COVID when I was, just starting, that talked about this guy who had transitioned from actually being fired by this one media group he was working with running a podcast. He went somewhere else and was like, I'm starting from scratch. Like, how am I going to ever build a podcast again? And then he sat there and was like, what am I talking about? I just interviewed all of these successful people at my last job. Like, who says I can't reach out to them and be like, hey, would you like to come back on? Or do you know anyone that would, I know you just did one with me. Do you have anybody else that would be a great fit? And so he started reaching out to 5 people a day, every day, by going through his oldest text messages and just saying, hey, clearly haven't talked to you in a while. I'm scrolling through the very end of my text message thread. And so I kind of picked that up at 4 people a day, and it had nothing to do with real estate. I literally went to the bottom of my text thread and just started texting 4 people a day, being like, nobody's getting out of their house, so I'm just taking this time to catch up with people and see how they're doing. And I learned a lot of cool stuff from people that had moved to different states. And, one guy was trying to become an actor in New Orleans. I would never have figured that out if I didn't just text him and ask him how he's doing. And I know he wasn't in Richmond to begin with. I just didn't know he'd left North Carolina and gone down south. And, so I think there was a lot of value in, I've kept in touch with some of these people. Got a friend who's out in California, but invests in Airbnbs in random states, depending on the vacation environment there. So we talk on the phone probably once a month, just about what we're both up to in the real estate space. So, a lot of cool things have come from, and that inspires me. I think, the point of saying that is that it inspires me to talk to him and hear what he's up to, and it keeps me going. That was a really cool experience to help me jump in. And so I'd say, however that looks to anyone who's starting off, just, reconnecting with anyone that you might have neglected over the past 1, 2, 3, 5 years.
Right. I love that. And that's such a simple way, right? I mean, none of your friends are going to say, why is he connecting with me? Right. You're just literally, we're just connecting with him to say hi. I was very lucky when I got in the industry. My family, including yourself, and friends, they all use me. They basically all use me. They all trusted me. I didn't have to sell to them. I didn't have to go out, I let them know what I was doing. Same. And that's what helped me get through those first few years of when it's tough. Now we going back, and we've really been investing in our past clients, and we're calling them 4 times a year. And we're really checking in, seeing what they're up to.
Right.
And obviously we're looking at rates right now that no one's refining, but we're just making sure they know that we're good.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool thing is you learn what they're doing.
Yeah.
We've heard some cool things, some things that are very disappointing, sad news, but other vice versa, you get to reconnect even with the past clients that we have.
Definitely.
Everybody. It didn't matter if we, it was a rough transaction because in this industry not everything goes smoothly. It didn't matter. We still reach out to them to see how it's going.
Yeah.
And they were
100%.
interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
Yeah,
it's
definitely. Yeah. I think the cool thing about doing it is you get so caught up in your day to day that even your closest friends, sometimes you're like, man, I haven't talked to him in a month and a half. Like, what have I been doing? But having kids, working, it's like there's a lot. Everybody's got a lot going on, and so I do think it's of course, it's fantastic if some kind of sale or referral comes out of it, but like genuinely just reaching out and being like, hey, haven't talked to you in a while. Like, we used to hang out every weekend looking at houses. So like, it'd be nice to know what you're up to. Cause I used to hear about it all the time when when we were on the hunt for a new home. So, it just feels good to like stay in touch with everybody and just, have more good conversations that are just around what people are up to in life.
Yeah. And it always leads back to referrals, but in general, it feels good, right? It feels better about, what you're doing. And
absolutely.
Everything. So, well, do you have anything you want to add? I don't.
No, I was thinking along more of that first time advising on what I would suggest. I think kind of in the same light of what we're talking about, of staying in touch with people, just share a story about the first transaction I actually had and how it just spawned from zero intention of selling somebody. And, I talked to a friend right before my license came back from state board, and they were about to renovate. And so, I started sending letters to people just to say, hey, I'm in real estate now. And I got to him, and shout out to Sam and MG, who actually I think also worked with you guys for their financing. And I just sent them a card saying, I know you're about to renovate. Let me know if I can send you any contractor references. I was a project manager for a long time. I've got a lot of relationships with, electrician, plumber, trim carpenter, framer, whatever you might need. And funny enough, he reached out, when they got the card and was like, well, actually, because of COVID, we don't have enough space and we can't renovate when we're working from home. So he's like, do you want to come over and talk to us about us buying a new place? And so, just like that, zero intention of, trying to be a salesy, hey, like I'm a real estate agent now, like send me business. I was just trying to be genuinely offer them, some value. And I think that right there was proof that the way I wanted to go about growing a business through adding value for other people was going to work. And, would it take a lot of effort? Yeah. But it's the way that I want to do it. And, it was confirmation that it can be done.
It feels good to you. Right?
Yeah. So I think that's the last piece I'll
perfect. Well, Brian, are you good?
Awesome. I'm good.
Well, Peter, thanks for coming in. Thank you for all you do for me, my family, him.
Yep.
Seriously, we appreciate it. I know you're, again, my brother-in-law, so you have to. No, I'm just kidding. But we just want to make sure we take care of your clients, and we definitely appreciate it. So
well, I tell everyone that I work with when I send them to you guys, I say, look, I'm going to tell you up front, Brett's my brother-in-law. I want you to know that. And I want you to know that I wouldn't work with these guys if I didn't trust them and know that they're going to take the best care of you possible. So thank you guys for everything you do.
We know we have to take good care of them. If we don't, then
That's right. Phone's going to stop ringing.
Good. So
there's no hiding.
We appreciate it, man. So and thanks again for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's podcast. Once again, this is Brian Miltenberger and Brett Chambers with the Chambers-Miltenberger Team here at C&amp Mortgage.
If you're an agent and you're listening to this podcast, we would, and you want your loans closed on time, you want great communication throughout the process, and you want your leads followed up in a prompt and timely manner, then give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you. 540-908-7764. We'll see you on the next podcast.